Russos brand family. We are family.
Attitude Club for life. This is the Generating Heat Podcast with JG and Mikey Messier. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at JG Has Heat and at Mikey Messier. Like our Facebook page, The Generating Heat Podcast. Subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcast, and Apple Podcast. And we are ready to generate the heat with JG and Mikey Messier, starting right now.
Hey, this is Stevie Richards. I'm here to tell you, you don't necessarily need all this equipment to get in the best shape of your life. All you need is this, a resistance band. I'm so excited to offer the 12-week resistance band training program to you, which features an interactive PDF with full overview videos, modifications, descriptions of all the exercises, scalability, no matter what fitness level or what age you are. The PDF scales the workout to you. Also, after your instant download of the PDF, you get full direct email support right from me, as well as access to a Facebook group with an awesome interactive community. I can't wait to help you take control of your fitness journey. So just put in StevieRichardsFitness.com, go to the store, and download the 12-week resistance band training program.
Okay, guys, welcome. This is Generating Heat. I am your host, JG, and conspicuous by his absence is Mikey Messier. Now, we have not, between myself here at Generating Heat, he also does a show also on the Russo brand family called What Have They Done to Our Sport with Cole Sheriff. A very great show. You guys make sure you check that out. He hasn't shown up there either, so I've been filling in over there. That's why I haven't been recording here, because me and Cole have kind of been cross promoting, but we've been doing it on his show since he does on video and things like that. I've been very worried about Mikey, and so is Cole. I didn't want to put out this episode because of the state of mind that Mikey was in, but me and Cole came to a decision that it's time. This episode was recorded right after, it was the Tuesday or Wednesday after Extreme Rules. I forget what the exact date was, but so we're doing our Extreme Rules review show, and Mikey has been really adamant about this thumb in the ass thing at PWG a couple years back that involves some of the main roster WWE and New Japan right now. So he kind of started going off on the deep end a little bit on it, and then we lost contact. And like I said, this was after Extreme Rules. It was like July 24th. No, it was, I don't know, somewhere, whatever the date was. But it's been almost 3 weeks, and we have not heard or seen from Mikey since. Very upset about that. Hope that he's okay. His phone keeps going straight to voicemail and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and release this episode to the public, and hopefully everybody can see what kind of state of mind Mikey was in, and maybe we can get a search party after him or something. So without further ado, here's the lost episode of Generating Heat, the Extreme Rules review, which we don't get through it at all, but we get through a couple of matches, and, just help us figure out the signs of where Mikey might be, and make sure you're commenting on this. Make sure you are liking it and subscribing. You know, also check out What Have They Done to Our Sport. I know that he has sent Cole a couple of pretty off the wall videos to share on the show that we've listened to while I've been guest hosting over there. But yeah, this is that episode, guys. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Generation. Mikey Messier's in the back. How you doing, Mikey?
Well, I'm very good, JG. It's always good to speak to a guy who takes this podcasting of pro wrestling stories seriously. I know you're a family man, you're an animal lover, but never in the history of generating heat have I heard a cat meow or a child cry, and I do appreciate your professionalism at all times, my friend.
Yeah, no doubt, man. We're grown folks over here, you know. We don't do that millennial bullshit, you know what I mean?
I do, and it's just a thing where there's so much happening in the world of professional wrestling. It's the middle of getting to be the end of July. It's summertime. I know the heat gets to people, and it can test our patience with each other. But we're all in this together. What are we going to talk about this time on generating heat?
Yeah, no doubt. Look, we just had Extreme Rules, and a big thing came out of Extreme Rules. Hulk Hogan is back in the WWE family.
Yes.
A long time coming, 3 years. Not everybody on the roster was happy about this, though. There are reports coming out that Titus O'Neil, now I don't know how true these are or not, that Titus O'Neil actually got up and walked out of a meeting, and that Ryan Satin has reported that there were cameras here present for this. What's your take on everything that's happened? Obviously, we've talked about Hogan in the past, and we both agreed that, he's served his time. But everything that's happened after that, what is your take on that? How the locker room has reacted?
Well, first of all, Ryan Satin, if he's reporting something, we know that there's a percentage chance it's true, but a great percentage chance that it's something he's either exaggerated or he's fabricated, or he's heard from a source who's heard from a source who's heard from a source. And obviously, thanks to you, a lot of your own research into Dave Meltzer and others have proven that some of these wrestling historians or these wrestling reporters, not even historians, because historians report on history, things that have actually happened. And unfortunately for us, some of these guys that we value as reporters in the world of pro wrestling, it's hard to even give them that title of reporter. And you did a good job, and I chimed in with our Dave Meltzer analysis, which is really more about his 5-star thing. But this Ryan Satin guy, I don't know too much about the guy, except that the Ultimate Warrior thing, where Ultimate Warrior on the spot called out Ryan Satin. So when the source of the story is Ryan Satin in the first place, it's nothing against the guy personally, but I just automatically have my suspicions, and so about the credibility of the story. Now, as far as Hulk Hogan goes, I have been outspoken since February, saying that people need to give Hogan another chance, and that Hogan's apologized vehemently, and that The Rock and Booker T, among other African-American pro wrestlers who have worked with Hulk Hogan, have stood up for him and said he deserves a second chance. Now, the other side of that, JG, is that we are white guys. We are Caucasians. And so our, insights or our feelings may not be totally in touch with the African-American community or the black community. And I use those two different terms because some black people don't like being called African American because they say they were never in Africa. So sometimes as a white guy, it's hard to know exactly how to be appropriate or be sensitive to these matters, except to say we can't put ourselves in other people's shoes. As much as we might want to be sensitive and be insightful, we don't know what it's like to be Titus. We don't know what it's like to be Mark Henry. All I can say is that people like Kamala and Slick and The Rock have all spoken well of Hogan, and I would hope that people give Hogan another chance. And that's all I can say. I mean, I think that Hulk Hogan helped build the foundation for the WWE and the state of pro wrestling. There wouldn't be a WrestleMania if there wasn't a Hulkamania. That's a fact, because Howard Finkel supposedly used the term Hulkamania as the basis for creating the term WrestleMania. So when some of these younger fans want to diminish Hogan and say that he shouldn't be welcome back, they don't know their history.
Yeah. So, I will let everybody know that Titus O'Neil is actually scheduled tomorrow to be on Busted Open Radio to talk about what really happened and if the story coming out is correct or not. So I encourage everybody to tune in to Busted Open Radio tomorrow with Dave LaGreca, Mark Henry, and their special guest Titus O'Neil, and kind of get to the bottom of this. You can check it out on YouTube after tomorrow night. So it's probably going to be a really great listen, and I think that there will be a whole lot to come out of this. Now, we're going to run through a few of the results from Extreme Rules that happened just a few short days ago. I got this story and these results, and I'm going to read off of them from the Bleacher Report. A good friend of mine, Eric Beeston, has wrote up a nice little review that we're going to discuss some of the matches on and see if we agree with his analysis or not. I figured we'd change it up a little bit this time instead of us just going back and forth with it, and kind of have somebody that is not a Meltzer, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I watched the show, and, it was okay, but yeah, go for it. Let's see what happens.
All right. We're going to start off with, we're going to skip the pre-match stuff because, Andrade Cien Almas versus Sin Cara, and it was an all right match. They rated that a B- on here. The SmackDown match that happened before, in my opinion, was better than this. And then you also had Sanity defeating the New Day in a tables match. Eric Young come off the rope with an elbow drop onto Kofi Kingston. They rated this match a C+. That's about par for what I think it was. It was about average.
Right.
But then when we get to the main show, and the first match of the main show was Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy versus the B team of Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel. And as we all know, Bo and Curtis came out on top and are the new Raw Tag Team Champions. What happened was there was a hot tag that led to Wyatt exploding into the match, taking the fight to Bo Dallas, which is everybody knows pretty much is his real life brother. Then there was a spot where there was a little miscommunication, led to Hardy crashing into Wyatt, and Dallas took advantage and hit him with the twisting neckbreaker to score the upset victory in the titles.
Yeah, I was in the just to jump
now,
in.
Eric, great.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was in the Generating Heat Extreme Rules podcast discussion group last night, JG, and I was kind of holding down the fort. I believe you were going to be in there, but some things happened on a personal level type of thing, I guess. And I was in there making little videos for people, and I actually was very positive for the B team winning that championship, because my opinion, JG, is that these are two guys, namely, Curtis Axel, or I believe they used to call him, he's Kurt Henning's son, and he had a different name at one point. I'm trying to remember what that name was. But him and
Mike McGillicuddy.
Right, Mike McGillicuddy, you got it. And I don't quite understand why. Maybe he didn't want that pressure of wrestling as, a Kurt Hennig Jr. or some type of Mike Hennig or whatever his real name is. Bo Dallas, I mean, to be honest, I don't know if Mike Rotundo using that family name is going to get you very far. I mean, I know a lot of people are familiar with IRS, Michael Wall Street, but Mike Rotundo was a really what they would call a great hand. Just a guy that could work anywhere on the card in his day and really excelled at tag teams. Didn't have the best body in the world and wasn't the best speaker, but Mike Rotundo could give you a solid 20 minutes with just about anybody. I'm really, and I'm not a guy who likes nepotism, JG. That's one thing about me and you, that we're guys, as far as I know, we don't have any family connections to the pro wrestling industry, and we're bringing ourselves into the industry by force. And so when I see guys who are given that nepotism, being a Rotundo and a Hennig, typically I wouldn't like those guys as much as I do, but I think there's something about the B team that works for me. I also like the fact that, the B team is an acting reference or a film reference, and I kind of get a kick out of that. And I kind of like these guys. And I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
I just don't like Matt Hardy as much. It's ironic that you're seeing Bo Dallas versus brother, his real-life brother, and they haven't really played into that. When they do those impersonations, it's kind of cool. When Bo Dallas impersonates his own brother, and they haven't really spoken about it. But I guess I'm not really a woken Matt Hardy type of fan. I have nothing against it. It just doesn't do it for me as much as some people. So for me, this was a highlight of the night. It was a good way to start the night with the upset.
Yeah, I'm with you on the Woken gimmick. I think it's played out. It kind of ran its course in TNA, if you ask me. Once it's come back, it was cool at first when it came back, but now that you see it every single week and they're doing the same exact stuff that he's done, for a better part of 5 years now, it's a broken record, if you ask me.
Yeah, it wasn't. So. It's just something that when WWE tries to WWE up something that's so, it's just something from a different world. Like when they try to do Bullet Club references, it just registers as disingenuous, and this doing Woken instead of broken, and that match that he had a couple of weeks or a month ago, I guess against it was against Randy Orton or somebody, the Matt Hardy thing, I mean, that was decent, but it wasn't as great as the thing that he did with Jeff Hardy back in TNA, that epic movie cinematic thing. So they don't always incorporate other people's ideas to the best of their ability.
No, they don't at all. I think a big part of that is they have to put their stamp on it. And a lot of times when they put their stamp on gimmicks that they didn't create, they don't put 100% into it, because a lot of times they bring guys in from the independent circuit to put the guys over that's been there anyway. So they don't invest unless they're a top talent, kind of like, Kevin Owens, people like that come in. Sting, he's a top talent.
Well,
they just don't put the effort into the gimmicks that were created outside of WWE.
And King Kong Bundy said it best himself, which is King Kong Bundy would have said, Vince, give me a new gimmick. I don't like being King Kong Bundy. And Bundy said that if Vince McMahon would have been able to give Bundy a new gimmick, that Bundy would have been world champion or something of that nature, instead of being in and out of the promotion in 3 or 4 years. So there you have it.
Yeah. You
I'm
still with me?
you. Apparently, there's a train coming by. It's unusual because this train, I thought, was out of business for 50 years, but for some reason there's a sound of a train coming. I can't quite explain it, but let's keep going.
Yeah, second match, don't really think we need to talk a whole lot about because, it is what it was. Finn Balor defeated constipated Baron Corbin. I like that, constipated. The SmackDown Women's Championship. Yeah, Carmelo and Asuka. Of course, Carmelo went over, defeated Asuka. Ellsworth, in the shark cage. Was there anything memorable to you about this match?
Well, I'll be honest with you. Carmella's kind of growing on me. I find her very attractive. I find her ring skills, for what it's worth, are improving. I find that, the fact that she was able to bonk Asuka's head against that, steel shark tank was, I don't know if it was exciting, but it shows a little bit of an intellect. This thing does not make Asuka look very good. There was quite a bit of women's action on this show, and it just goes to show that, the WWE women's roster is coming to their own. I think, I'm the guy that was so outspoken about the women's not being able to compete in Saudi Arabia, and I know that, women's issues are near and dear to both of us, JG, obviously, but the fact is, the WWE, has to do a little bit of better job of being ethical and moral when it comes to not being hypocrites. If they're going to feature Alexa Bliss and Asuka in this big match and Charlotte Flair and Ronda Rousey, people are speculating that they're going to headline WrestleMania. Well, what will they do with their Saudi Arabian friends if they put Charlotte and Ronda Rousey as the headlining main event in WrestleMania? Are they going to black out that match in Saudi Arabia when they show that pay-per-view somehow in Saudi Arabia? It might make sense to have Ronda and Charlotte go last at WrestleMania 35 or whatever it is, because that way they can end the pay-per-view with Roman versus Brock for the millionth time, and the Saudi Arabian people that mean so much to them, or at least their money does, they'll just have the show end there. And then the rest of us will see Charlotte versus Ronda Rousey or whatever is going to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I agree with you 100% about Carmella, man. She, ever since she was in NXT, I was a big fan, and the way that you can tell this is she still likes and retweets me, and she only does that with her hardcore fans that have been there from the very beginning. The bandwagon fans that come to her on Twitter, she either no-sells or she straight heals them, which is great. It's great to see. So, yeah, I've been a very big fan of Carmella ever since she was the valet for Big Cass and Enzo. And she's only gotten better, man. Like her ring work is, something to be talked about. If she was in another promotion, it would be exposed. But the way that she works a crowd is just it's second to none, really, in the WWE right now, if you ask me.
That's true. I was just a little distracted because I'm perplexed why this unusual train is coming through where I'm at. It doesn't make any sense, to be honest with you. I'm going to have to look into that. But, the thing with Carmella, JG, is as a man, to be honest, she's so attractive. but it's a little disconcerting if she was intimate or in a relationship with Big Kaz, because then, she's not as attractive anymore. You know what I mean? So that's just an aside. But she's still cute and all that, and she does represent Rhode Island. She went to the University of Rhode Island. That whole, Long Island thing is a work, but she did go to the University of Rhode Island, and that's something for us to be proud of here in the smallest state in the country, that we have Carmella as our SmackDown champion.
Yeah. After this, we had the United States Championship. Jeff Hardy and Shinsuke Nakamura. Nakamura, after the match started, he hit Hardy with a low blow. They gave this a B. Nakamura went over. He wins the U.S. title, and then Randy Orton makes his big comeback and turns heel, beats down Hardy. Now, Randy Orton should never be a babyface, in my opinion. He looks very uncomfortable as a babyface. He's not all that. He's not that great, on the mic by himself. But when he's a heel, oh my God, it's like two totally different people.
And so you prefer the heel, as we saw. So you were happy then with that swerve, so to speak.
Yeah, very happy with that swerve. Randy Orton as a heel is money. And to prove my point, when he was the WWE World Heavyweight Champion with his run in the Authority, that's the best ratings that WWE has had in 10 years, besides when Cena would have the belt. Anybody else, they were down. Either Cena was, of course, the top draw, but that run where Orton had the belt in the Authority was money.
Now, do you know that Randy Orton once was in the military stockade? Have you ever heard that story?
Yeah, we were actually in the military at the same time. It's crazy.
That is interesting.
But yeah, I've heard all about it. Yeah. Yeah, he was in the Marines. I was in the Air Force. I, obviously didn't know that at that time, but yeah, he went AWOL, went home for, I don't know, 30 days or so, just never went back, and ended up had to go in the brig for a little bit, do his time, and then they just let him out.
Well, thank you for your service, first of all, JG. And if I could ask an introspective question or just your own speculation, do guys, and I'm not trying to pass judgment on Randy Orton or anybody, but do guys in the military, when they hear something like that about someone in general, not pointing anyone out or anything, but guys who went AWOL and serve time in the brig, is it kind of like you serve your time, you did your thing, or is it always kind of like a scarlet letter type of deal for that individual?
Oh, without a doubt. Back in those days, scarlet letter. I'm not sure how it is today. It seems like it's a little snowflakey right now.
Right.
So I don't know if it's the same, but oh man, yeah, back in those days, if that's worse than murdering somebody to your fellow servicemen, is leaving your post and going AWOL. Because it's like you turned your back not only on your country, on your president, on your command, but all of your brothers and sisters who are there beside of you and serving with you. No matter what situation you're in, those are the people that you're letting down. And you take an oath when you go into the military that you will never leave a man behind. Well, when you go AWOL, you leave millions behind. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's like rule number one. You just don't do that. And I mean, it worked out great for him, and I'm glad that it did. But it kind of makes you wonder that if there was a little harsher punishment, would he have the now? Because that would have that would have cut into his OVW training time and things like that. He probably had, I don't know, 2 or 3 years left on his enlistment whenever that happened. So we would have been behind on that, which means he would have missed out on training with, Brock and John Cena and Batista and everybody that was in OVW at that time. So, it worked out great for him. That's all I can say.
Maybe the guilt of his actions, maybe he channels that somehow into his wrestling performances or his mindset. I don't want to speak for him, but I think I've heard him speak about it. He wasn't too proud of it. He wasn't proud of it at all. He had remorse. But I guess it's another one of those deals where, you have to walk in somebody's footsteps or their shoes or their combat boots to totally know the whole story. Maybe there's more to it that he doesn't want to speak about. Maybe there's not. I do know that there was a movie called Warrior about 7 or 8 years ago with some really good actors, including, the really good actors that are in the movies, not to be vague, but I'm forgetting the names, but Kurt Angle had an appearance in that movie, Warrior. He wasn't one of the stars. It was Nick Nolte and a couple of really top name actors. And that had a character that was AWOL who ends up fighting in a tournament, mixed martial arts tournament. And Kurt Angle's one of the fighters, and the guy's own brother is one of the fighters. And I happen to have the movie posters from that movie, and it's quite an image. But the way that you explained AWOL and what it means to the other soldiers, I wish that some of your words were quoted in the film Warrior, because it would have made more clear to me the ramifications and the implications of going AWOL. And the brig, not to go too deep down this rabbit hole, but when you say the brig, I guess what I imagine is like an outdoor one-person prison that's got no light. I don't know if they have a bathroom in there of any kind or just a hole in the ground. I think it's like literally like you're locked into like a little cave with the 3 prison bars of steel, and they just slip you like one sandwich a day, or I don't know if you can or want to describe that situation, but to paint a portrait for what this guy went through.
The brig today is. I actually spent a couple of days in the brig because where I worked in a secure area. You had to have a pretty high security clearance to even get into that area, because I was around all the planes and all the vital information, things like that. One day I forgot my line badge, which is like, the same as a media badge, pretty much. You put it around your neck to get into certain areas at sporting events or, movie premieres or anything like that. It's kind of the same type of deal. You don't have that little pass, you don't get in. Well, I had forgot mine, and I had to spend a couple days there. It's nothing like what you hear in the movies or anywhere else. It might have been back in the day, back in the early days of the military, but the brig now is just a regular jail. Just like going to county, It's not bad at all. Well, at least not the part that I was in. I guess if you are a violent offender or whatever, you'll go to solitary, and I'm not sure how that is over there, but that's what it is. So, yeah, and to speak on what Randy's mindset possibly could have been at that time, let me just give you a little history of what was going down then. This was pre 9/11. Bill Clinton was our president. He had just got impeached, or when I was there, he actually went through the whole, Monica Lewinsky impeachment process, while I was in. He was my commander in chief, but he was a laughing stock. Like nobody, even the generals in the military and stuff, weren't taking him as seriously as they probably should have on some of the issues that we had, like the Cobart Towers, the USS Cole, all that stuff happened while I was in and while I was overseas. So that very well could have been us. Christmas 1999, Christmas Eve, the dude plans a strike on Iraq, which, you know, we hadn't really done anything in Iraq in years. And the intel that we had was not accurate. It wasn't Iraq at all that hit the Cobart Towers or the USS Cole. It was Al-Qaeda, which we knew that, but I don't know why the White House intel had it differently, that it was Saddam and it was the Iraqis, because it wasn't, had nothing to do with that. So that's when the conspiracy theorists, and a lot of them are actually in the military, because we see this information, started thinking that this is all about oil, and it's all been about oil the entire time, even back to Desert Shield and Desert Storm. We saw Saddam Hussein in a very different light back then than the government did. You know what I mean? Because to us, I mean, yes, he did some horrible things to his people, but at the same time, he wasn't doing the things to the U.S. that the government was portraying him to.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like, so that's going through my mind. Like, can we really trust this dude? And there was a lot of times where I was like, man, I'm getting ready to be in a war that has there's going to be no value. And there's, you know, a lot of us in the military was of the mindset of, well, we're getting this intel, but the government has other intel. So, you know, why are we doing this? And a lot of people was thinking that the difference between myself and 1 million, 2 million, however many others, and Randy Orton is that, you know, we follow orders. We, you know, it's what you do in the military. Whether you agree or disagree, you follow, because if you don't follow, then that can cause a ripple effect that can affect lives. People could die if you don't follow orders. So, you know, that's where the disconnect was. I see what he possibly was thinking at the time and doing what he did, but you just don't do it, you know.
Well, those were the days of, I did not have sex with that woman. And then he had to redefine, he being President Clinton, had to redefine what he meant by sex. So, anyway.
That started. Yeah, and now we're worried about a president who had sex not in the Oval Office and not in the presidency outside of his marriage. And the same people that were defending Clinton at that time are chastising Trump for not the exact same thing, for something he did 10 years ago. You know what I mean?
Well,
that's the way the world works now, I guess.
The state of politics, JG, it's really so crazy these days. And I'll say this, and I guess it's just been on my mind a lot. You know, people are kind of wondering, Mike, why are you so upset about the state of wrestling? And, you know, these guys, the Titan 10, as I call them, the thumb in the ass spot, which people are asking me, what does that mean? And I say, I didn't make it up. I mean, I guess I gave the abbreviation to it, but the Titan 10, it sounds like some type of secret society from a Russian war novel, but it's the thumb in the ass 10. And when I talk about that, it's from the Pro Wrestling Guerrilla show, you know, 2 years ago, where these 10 guys, these 10 supposedly professionals in wrestling, and unfortunately Jushin Liger was one of them, Tommaso Ciampa, who I've met and is a nice guy and everything, but he was one of them. You know, Jeff Cobb, the real big tough guy, the heavyweight, Sami Callihan. All these guys were part of the Titan 10, the thumb in the ass 10. And to me, that reeks of secret society stuff. And what I mean by that, JG, is that some of these secret societies will do stuff to people, make them do things, public displays of humiliation, often involving sexual practices, which they normally would not want to do. Now, people might say, Mike, this is just a silly wrestling thing. But why is it happening? And why are the 10 guys involved in this thing, 8 or 9 of them are all working professional wrestlers now with major wrestling companies? It seems to me that there's something going on there. And I have no speculation, but if we're going to talk wrestling and politics and so forth.
Mikey, are you there? I'm going to try to get a hold of him one more time. Hold on one second, folks. We record off of the Anchor app, and it says that Mikey Messier is no longer available. Oh my God. Mikey. Hello, Mike. Let me try to call him on my other phone. Hold on. All right, guys, I'm going to try one more time. Hold on. Let me try to call him. I'm going to call him from this phone. My other phone. Actually, no, I'm going to use this one.
Leave a message for Mike.
I don't know what to think here, guys. We went straight to voicemail, as you heard. You know, he was talking kind of cryptic about this train that kept going by that doesn't ever go by where he's at, I guess. It sounded like he was outside. He's really been bummed here lately about this thumb in the ass thing. I really hope that he didn't jump in front of the train. Oh, my God. Well, look, guys, I'm really worried about my friend. I'm going to keep trying to get a hold of him. Some things are just bigger than a podcast. You know, you guys know pretty much what happened in Extreme Rules. If not, you can look it up. Look up the report on BleacherReport.com. Make sure you stay tuned here to Generating Heat. Like our Facebook page. Follow us on Twitter at JGHasHeat, at Mikey Messier. Hopefully, I don't know. I don't know what to say right now. I'm just worried about my friend, guys. You know, it's bigger than the podcast, so we're going to go ahead and sign off. Thank you guys for listening, and everybody, please pray for Mikey. We got to make sure he's all right.